Hello, my name is Andrew Gay, and together with my co-host Tom Fox, I would like to welcome you to our new podcast, Investing in the Future, Developing Leadership in Kerr County. In this podcast series, we will talk about and with local leadership within Kerr County. We dive into their unique perspectives and discuss their visions about the future of Kerr County, as well as the importance and role of local leadership. This podcast is a special production of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network.
Today, Megan Folkerts joins Andrew and Tom as she talks about her experiences from Leadership Kerr County.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Andrew Gay and Tom Fox here. And today we're talking with Megan Folkerts from the city of Kerrville. She is the senior management analyst for the city of Kerrville. Megan, hello. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, happy to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about leadership and your experience there and what you do for the city. So if you want to kick us off, maybe just start telling us by what you do for the city of Kerrville.
Sure. So like you said, I'm the senior management analyst. So I work in the city admin office, basically doing special projects. I joke that my job title is basically other duties as assigned because I'm doing something different almost every day. I'm also the downtown liaison for Main Street. So I do a lot of downtown projects and then work with the Main Street business owners on anything that they may need from us. So that's my main job duties. I was involved in Leadership Kerr County this year. I think our graduation is coming up next week.
Woohoo!
So
It definitely is.
I love the sound effects.
Yeah, it is next week. And next week is y'all's last class day of the year, right?
Yes. So Drew Paxton was in it. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but he encouraged me to apply this year. So that's how I got into it, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and Drew's a good friend of mine. He's on the steering committee, and he was not in it last year because that was my class. He wasn't in my class. I think it was the year before. But I've really enjoyed seeing a good number of city employees have presence there. Tom, what you got for Megan?
Sure, Megan. Could you tell us where you grew up?
So I grew up in Buda. Everybody jokes because everybody calls it Buda, but I grew up in Buda. It's between San Marcos and Austin. So went to high school there, and then I went to Tarleton and Stephenville to get my bachelor's in business. And then when I graduated there, I went to work for the city of Bastrop, actually. And while I worked there, they encouraged me to get my master's. So I went back and got my master's at Tarleton too. So
what brought you to Kerrville?
So I met my husband, and he lives in Bernie. So since my background's in public administration, I kind of like to stay with city government. So they had a job opening, and I applied and got it.
How long have you been in Kerrville?
About 4 years I've been with the city.
So you started to tell us about how you got involved, or at least applied to Leadership Kerr County. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. So I've always been kind of a go-getter with what I wanted to do, always kind of bigger and better things. And the position that I'm in right now is kind of, I don't have anybody who reports under me, and I only report to the city manager. So I kind of have availability to just explore different things. And leadership's always kind of been something I've been good at, I think, and passionate about. And so I have had the opportunity just to apply for the program and get in that way and just try and get my foot in the door in different types of leadership programs in Kerr County.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask about, you mentioned Drew Paxton was, so what was the timeline leading up to you actually enrolling in leadership? Can you take us through a little bit of that? Like when he introduced it to you, how long ago was that? Because like, for example, myself, I had to wait several years before the time was right, before I actually went through the program or applied.
I actually heard about Leadership Kerr County a couple years ago, and I've been encouraged to do it, but I've since had 2 kids, so it hasn't really panned out with maternity leave and things like that. Yeah, sure.
Understandable.
So Drew did come to me this year and encouraged me to apply. So thankfully I didn't have to wait between that process, but the timing wise, it's been a couple years for me personally, but I lucked out and got in my first application. So
yeah, you did. Accepted right away. Star student.
Yeah.
Star class participant. Tom, go ahead.
So could you tell us maybe 2 or 3 of the highlights for you in this year's class?
So I think it's been really neat to get to network with other people who have like-minded interests in leadership and developing themselves. So it's been really, really awesome to meet a big group of people and get to experience this type of program with those types of people and learn from, whatever their different positions are within the community, and then them as a person, kind of broadening, my perspective on different things. So that's been a huge highlight, is just getting to know a lot of people around the city who are leaders. And then the other one is just getting to go tour the different facilities and learn about the different standard pillars of the community, healthcare, nonprofit, everything like that. Has been really awesome to have the opportunity to explore, because outside of that, you really don't get the exposure to those places or get to pick those people's brains about what exactly they do for the community.
I wanted to ask specifically about that, the Public's Work Day, where you do the water treatment plant, the water reclamation plant, and you working with the city. Had you ever seen that side of any of that before?
So I had, only because so we have a leadership program with the city called Kerrville Area Youth Leadership Academy, and that's open for high school students. And so we do that every year. It's something that's kind of progressed from different acronyms along the years, but the most recent one we call KALA. And so with that, we have high school students come in and we do those same types of things, but just city. So it's a 7-month program, and we get every month to go to different facilities and tour. So I'd actually done that tour twice before, but aside from that, I didn't even know, where that was. I mean, you drive by it, but you don't really think about what it is, but getting to go do that tour is awesome. And the people that are out there are awesome. So you learn a whole lot about something you didn't even consider. I love when you go out there, because when they ask the kids, what do you think happens whenever you flush the toilet? You don't think about that.
And they're probably just awestruck, right?
Yeah. So it's really cool to get to do that. But that's the only reason. And aside from that, I had never gotten to do that before. So
yeah, good. Well, because that was one of the most eye-opening days for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you talked about a couple of the highlights for us. Were there any surprises for you?
I think so. I have when I forgot what day exactly it was. I think maybe it was Nonprofit Day, and we had a poverty simulator.
Yep.
And that was really crazy. That was a huge thing that you don't consider. You think poverty, you think people are struggling, but to actually live the simulator and go through their struggles and what people face day to day, it's something that you don't consider, and you realize how privileged you actually are. You
get frustrated real quick with those.
And in mine, they told us we could go up to her and ask questions, and I think I was one of the only ones I'm stuck. I don't know what to do, but there's a lot of people that don't get to do that. They don't have somebody to tell them the perfect answer. So.
And ask for guidance in that kind of situation when you're that frustrated and that confused maybe about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Tom?
Sure. I've been intrigued by the entire Leadership Kerr County program, because to me, it is the county and city investing in itself to bring forward people who, number one, want to learn more about where we live, but also want to be a part of the dialogue, part of the discussion, and part of the leadership. Now I find out you're doing the same for high school students in the KALA program. So is that the purpose, to help, train our leaders for tomorrow? As trite as that might sound?
I think so. And I think a big thing is education too. So, when you're in high school, everybody's telling you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? You need to think about these things. But unfortunately, aside from schoolwork, nobody gets to really see what it is that you do. So for the KALA program, it is to introduce them to city operations and kind of give them another perspective on what they could do whenever they grow up. So it's a cool mix between the two. So for KALA, we do that. And then leadership, you get to learn about all of the other different types of things. So for the high school students, it's great. And doing those tours, like you said, with the water treatment plant, it's like that for them on every single tour that we do. They have no idea, normally what goes into city operations.
Well, what about that program specifically, where you said it's the Kerrville area? So what high schools are involved in that, and how do you, how many students actually make up the class, and how do you, pick them and that kind of thing?
So our applications, they open in August, and I typically will try and reach out to all of the schools in the county, to like their principals, assistant principals, or their counselors, and just let them know of the opportunity. So we take up to 10 right now. This year's class, we had 6, and we had people from Kerrville, Ingram, and Centerpoint. So,
wow.
And then last year we had some homeschooled kids too. So we try and get everybody we can reach. So we publish it through the city to try and get the word out for that. But I try and go straight to the source to at least let them know what we're trying to do.
Could you talk a little bit about the relationships you've developed with your classmates and maybe the breadth and scope of the diversity of your class?
In leadership?
Yes.
So the relationships are great. You learn to rely on people just for little things, not just with my class, but with the steering committee and people who were in it previously. It's just great to have an ally because everybody's from all different realms. It's not just city government. It's across the entire county. So if you have an issue with something, you can reach out to that person and say, hey, do you know who to talk to for that? And they can usually put you in the right direction. Or when it comes to fundraising, a lot of people do that day to day. And if you just have little questions about that, you have this network of people that you're friends with that can help put you in touch with people to help on day to day. So that's been really great for me.
I think doing this podcast is a good example of that. It's how we found each other. What else, Tom?
That's it.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you want to add that we haven't talked about today, Megan, before we end our time here?
So the only other thing I could touch on is internships too. So, leadership is kind of for people who are out of school. Kayla is for people who are in high school. And then for the city, I'm trying to kind of develop our internship program to be a little more diverse and a little bulkier than what we have right now. We have a partnership with Shriner, so we'd like to try and keep in touch with Shriner students and faculty over there about opportunities that we have. But we're trying to develop leaders in that way as well, and putting people who have degree plan needs in with the different departments to get that experience. So,
wow, good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today, Megan.
Yes.
Happy to have you here.
Thanks
Hope you
for having
enjoyed.
me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Inaugural episode of Investing in the Future, Developing Leadership in Kerr County. Andrea and I will be exploring this topic in some detail over the next several episodes. I hope you'll plan to join us again. If you've been a member of Leadership Kerrville, we may be reaching out to you. If you'd like to be on this podcast, please feel free to contact either Andrew or myself. This podcast is a special production of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network.